love to start by just talking about, I guess, I love starting with stories from the past before moving to the present. So, thinking about your journey with music and what were your earliest memories of music, and how has that kind of like unfurled into where you are today with it? Did you like to sing or perform when you were younger, or was there someone that influenced you? What was like your earliest musical memories?
Mm. Yeah, I remember the first memory that's coming to mind is I went to this amazing summer camp called ARE camp, which maybe you've heard of, Association for Research and Enlightenment. My parents
Hmm.
basically like moved from Ireland over here to be a part of that organization, and
Oh,
they didn't end up like working for them, but they still love them to this day and are members of the ARE. But anyways, there's this little summer camp that used to be down in rural Retreat, Virginia. And it was just like so idyllic. And like when I think of it, I just think of the breeze blowing through these giant trees and sighing. And yeah. And at the camp, we would sing together like before every meal. Before we would have like daily activities twice a day in the evening, like we sang so much, and it was like 80 plus people of all ages and registers, and
wow.
it was such a fun way to get to learn to sing along with other people. And one of the memory I'm thinking of is we had like a little activity, and I don't remember. I feel like the memory is really dusty, so I must have been pretty
Yeah.
young. But she taught us how to harmonize. She was like, "Okay, here's the note, and then just step up a couple notes, and you can harmonize." So that was like, I guess, a formative little memory, and so that was always really fun for me to play with those
Yeah.
experiment, and it was such a safe space because you would get drowned out by everybody singing around you, and you could listen to
Yeah.
other harmonies and find little spots in the song where you could like, I don't know, I'm thinking like a little bird finding their branch.
Yes. Oh, and so then from there, when did you first start writing music, or when did you first start writing songs, I guess?
Well, my very first song, um, it's so funny. I went to see the movie Moulin Rouge with my besties, and it was so moving. That twist, the plot twist at the end, it just like gutted us. I think like our hearts were just like we were like sobbing. And I came home
Yeah.
so moved. And I guess it was kind of this foretelling, because I ended up like living in France a little bit, so it's like even though there isn't that much real French culture in there, I do think it's interesting that that's my little
Yeah.
first songwriting moment.
Yeah. So when you're writing songs, is there a certain process? I know when I like writing songs too, and so for me, I try to catch songs using like a voice memo recorder and then piece them together. Is there a certain process that you go through? Do the lyrics come first? Is the melody, or is it sort of like a interweaving of both?
Hmm. It's not a super solid thing, like it's not super set in stone for me, but
Yeah.
I have started using the voice note thing, like just because I don't know, it seems really cool to like, excuse me, I gotta go catch this sound, or like, oh, this song is going through my head, I have to capture it. Like, it's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
But I don't always use those. Yeah, usually those are like little hooks or little loops that I could build off of.
Yeah.
That's a little more of a tedious songwriting process for me than this other process where it's funny, it's kind of hard to make much money in the music business, but I've kind of like woven performing into my creative process where while I'm rehearsing, I get bored because I'm very creative, and then like I just start tinkling around and I
Yeah.
start humming, and if I really let my, just don't think while I'm singing, some words will come out. And yeah, it's almost like this weird thing where I don't want to think about it too hard, but
Yeah.
I am getting to a point where like I want to hone my craft as much as possible. So yeah, it's always like that balance between the rational
Yeah.
mind and the creative subconscious bubbling up from the deeps.
Yeah, and I feel like it's just staying open, right? And just staying open to letting it come through in its own way.
Yeah.
Um, that's really cool. Wow. So So you've written a couple albums, right? You're writing or you're currently working on a new album. Can you talk a little bit about that and the inspiration behind it and the process or whatever you'd like to share?
Yeah. I have done, I think, maybe like 5 albums. They're not all great. If you go to my Bandcamp, it's kind of this like heroine's journey or of like starting out sounding kind of crappy and then, as time went on, got better and better. And that's
How it
really, really
goes, right?
satisfying. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Totally.
okay. Yeah, I love this thing. I suck at it. And as time goes on, I'm better at it. And I've just always loved being in the recording studio, like my happy place, just high as a kite, like come home, don't need any like distractions from life. Like life is
Yeah.
amazing. So
Yeah.
that's kind of why I ended up in that realm. It was just like whenever I had any spare money in a song, I was like, let's do this because this is
Yeah.
fun for me.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, this latest one is a new evolution for me. Of course, we're kind of in this digital age where the robots are doing more and more for us. And um, yeah, I just like was really girl crushing on all the women I saw who were producing themselves and recording themselves.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, I try that.
Ooh.
So basically, kind of taught myself and studied up on how to do that. And I've been playing around with it. I wouldn't say this whole album I've done every single thing. Like on one song, I recorded everything. Sounds a little bit like hot trash. So then I learned like maybe I should do my vocals in the pro studio just so there's nothing hairy in there,
Yeah.
like a truck rumbling by or an echo in my room or something, or my cat, which who's like meowing right now. But yeah, so it's been fun to play around with taking more creative control over each element and just learning about kind of more behind the scenes of what mixing and recording and producing even is. And I still don't like mastering is still kind of like I want to say witchcraft, but it's usually
Yeah.
a man who does it, so it's like warlock magic.
Yes. Wizardry.
Yeah. um, yeah, and then
Wow.
this album is called New the Old, and you'll just kind of hear that organic, raw, evolving sound on it because my last albums, they were really polished and really studio heavy, like all in the studio, but I felt like they were missing something,
Mm.
some kind of life force. So I think I've got that in this album, and when people hear it, they're like, "Whoa, that's really interesting!" Like, or like that really
Cool.
moved me. So I think shifting my focus from perfection to emotion and
Oof.
wisdom and yeah, all
Yeah.
that like ineffable stuff. That was a good move.
Yeah.
And I actually did get signed to a label the other day.
Congrats. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
it's called Chrome
Awesome.
City Records. It's out of DC, and yeah, we're just kind of like exploring. We're gonna make a song together and see how it goes. And I just loved that they were so close in DC,
Yeah.
and they're really supportive. But yeah, I could go on and on about the album. I don't know if you want to know the
No,
concept
I wanna
behind
know,
it.
totally. And I love what you're saying about, like, how your first couple albums were, like, super polished, and whenever they're in the studio, it's like there's this it's almost like there's this layer of, like, glowing, perfectionism to it, where then it's different, like, if someone sees you at a show, there's this more, like, earthy, in the momentness, and so it's really beautiful that you're putting that into your albums as well.
Yeah.
Um, so great. Yeah, keep going. Tell us more. What
Yeah.
else?
Yeah, the creative control has been amazing because
Yeah.
I used to spend like so much time going back and forth and back and forth, like, oh, could you tweak this? And
Right.
actually, I hear this here. And now that whole process is within me
Yeah.
and up to me to execute. And now I'm coming kind of full circle where I think my next album is going to be more collaborative with the label. Um, just because I'm such an artiste. I'm not that like technical. I like doing new things,
Yeah.
but once I've got it, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I don't really
Yeah.
want to do that really technical thing all the time. But
Yeah.
you know, it's just a work in progress. But the album itself, New the Old, I was wanting to do a concept album because I noticed that my favorite artists are really visual heavy and they have these kind of like all these symbols and you're like always like did just pique your curiosity so hard.
Yeah.
I love Grimes and Bjork especially for that. And yeah, I wouldn't say I'm completely at their level of like aesthetic, but I wouldn't mind if I had a team that wanted to make me beautiful. That's fine.
Oh, yeah.
But I like costuming and stuff. And so I
Yeah.
kind of came up, here and there I was having little pieces, little glimpses of what this concept album could be. And it's kind of cool. Every time I perform, like I'll dress up as one of the like basically the main character. And at first I thought it was a few different characters, but it's almost like I don't know what movie that like I can't remember the name of the movie because I'm not I'm not a pop culture person, but
Yeah, same.
it's
I wouldn't know.
basically I came up with the name Anmara for the project to kind of name this electronic realm I was stepping into, and in the concept album, like the planet is called Anmara. It's the new name of the
Ooh.
Earth after climate change and all this toxicity has built up, and it's off in the future. I want to say it's 7+ generations in the future. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, so the place is called Anmara, but then I'm like, oh, but also like the global society is called Anmara.
Yes.
Because, and I'm like, oh, well, how did this global society get formed? And I was like, this woman named Anmara. It's kind of like I'm
The
insane and I'm
planet is named
realizing
after her.
everything. Yeah, everything's Anmara. But
Wow.
she starts out kind of a peasant. She's impoverished. The world has just like gotten really chaotic and is still just recovering, like the ecosystem, all this crazy weather and toxicity. Like people are just kind of surviving, and then of course there's still an elite that's clinging to like the places that are pure and
Mm,
trying to keep other people out, and your usual dystopia future.
yeah.
um and then she gets to a point where she's starving. She's not dying of thirst, but she is kind of in this altered state. Maybe she's feverish. And I did just release a music video that shows this process a little bit. She goes to this water's edge, and she starts meditating because she's like, well, I might die. I'm just gonna like meditate till I die, I guess. And she has this vision. That's like my dream. I'm like,
Yeah, just
yes.
meditate till you die.
I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? I'll just be like Gandhi and just
Yeah.
like meditate till I
Yeah,
die. Yogi solutions to modern problems. But yeah, she's meditating. She has a vision of this aspect of Gaia comes out of the lake. In the music video, she's kind of Lady of the Lake
mm,
vibe, and she gives her this rainbow sword. And at the time, I thought the Rainbow Warrior myth of the Native Americans was true. I looked it up, and it's not true. It's like made up
oh.
by white people for some reason. So that's kind of embarrassing. But anyway, she has this rainbow sword, which is supposed to unite like all peoples of all races and cultures. And I kind of liked that, weaving something indigenous with my like
Mm,
Irish European roots, because really I think we have to see past all of that and just start working
yeah.
together, because we're
Yeah.
all humans, we're all these like complex mammals that have done something crazy to our planet, and we all need to work together. So yeah, the story, she gets this vision and she realizes she's kind of like this futuristic modern Joan of Arc character, where like the goddess is like, you need to unite all the peoples and like protect the planet, like restore it to justice. She wasn't like, you need to violently take over the world and dominate it. She was just like,
Yeah.
yeah, you need to like bring the people together, like basically form an army of some sort and defend and protect and take back
Yeah.
from all the baddies. Because we keep seeing those more and more, like because of the internet and stuff. We're like, oh,
For
these
sure.
people at the top are like nefarious. So
Yeah.
yeah, she sets off into the woods in the music video, and then
Wow.
gosh, the concept album does keep going because I had to weave a bunch of my songs together. So I was like, okay, what happens next? And
Yeah.
she succeeds, and then there. she kind of goes a little crazy though, like with all the pressure and intensity, and the visions and everything, and she gets confused and thinks that she is the embodiment of Gaia, kind of like Jesus. But like,
Mm.
I'm sure Jesus was actually God. I don't think this lady is. I mean, we're all the goddess, right? She just gets confused in like a schizophrenic way and thinks that she needs to be worshipped, and she starts this religion
Oh,
where everybody worships Gaia, and then and like she sends people that she doesn't like, she like punishes them by sending them out to do like toxic remediation work and until they get sick and die. So there's like, and anybody who like violates the planet, you know, she's like, what did you do? You poured paint down the drain, you're banished. Yeah.
wow.
I think because I have this like part of me that is this super zealous environmentalist, so I'm basically
Totally.
just living out my fantasies in a very
Yeah.
safe container here with my album. And I do think that's
Wow.
the role of art, is to um, yeah, help the crazy people and channel something amazing that shifts the culture, instead of like take out the crazy on all the other things in their life, which I'm guilty of. If I don't create, I get a little sour, a little saucy. But then, just to bring it all together, just to throw, yeah, the
I'm loving this.
resolution. Okay, good.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like story time with Annabeth. The resolution of it is kind of based on my boyfriend, except he
Oh.
has blue skin, because it's this is all set in the, oh sorry, my slippers are falling off. My favorite, one of my favorite authors is Ursula K. Le Guin, and I love how
Mm.
she just explores different ways of setting up society, different governments, different possibilities throughout the galaxy. And she has this whole thing called the Hainish cycle, which is set in the future, but Earth is part of it. It's just renamed Terra.
Mm.
And anyways, there's this seed species of humanoids that has put different iterations of humans on different planets in
Mm.
that world, or in that universe.
Yeah.
And humans are just one of them. But so yeah, one of these blue-skinned Hainish, what are they, from the Ecumen is what it's called, and they're kind of this wise, ancient, like the most ancient humans in the universe, and they're just like, they have this really long history. So when they see all this strife, they're just sort of like, yes, well, we don't want to meddle too much, but you know, they'll offer advice, but they won't like
Intervene.
they might intervene, but not necessarily. They might
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
things out and just like offer help and assistance or not, depending on the situation. But yeah, one of those guys shows up, and then they end up having kind of like a, well, at first she wants to fight with them, and then they end up falling in love.
Oh.
And she realizes she's not the goddess incarnate, and she kind of gives back this religion to the people. And so now there's this new religion where people are just like voluntarily, I don't want to say worshiping Gaia, but like treating the planet and life as sacred. Because I do
Yeah.
feel like, personally, not that huge of a fan of all the world religions, because I feel like they're missing that indigenous honor of
Yeah.
nature somehow. Like, I mean, I'm most familiar with Christianity, and there's like, you can draw that in and like make it like, yes, we must steward the land, but it's not like, I think we're getting to a point where it needs to be the center, like very close to the
Mm.
center of everything. It's like, God, the divine is in the creation, and like abuse the don't abuse the creation. Like,
Yeah. Absolutely.
anyways, I'm out of breath
Wow.
now.
Wow. Okay, so okay, I feel like I just watched a beautiful movie unfold. So as far as this concept album, so each song sort of tells a little piece of that story.
Yeah.
Wow. How many songs is it?
So far, it's 8. I'm kind of shifting gears with the labels, so I think I might cap it there. And there's a few little bonus tracks in there, but I
Yeah.
could add a few more. It's basically all these either love songs or ecological songs.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
I used to write like unrequited love songs, and I don't know, just like this and that, you know. And then suddenly I started writing songs about what I really care about, which is nature. So that was really nice. Like, oh,
Yeah.
finally, like I can sing about this stuff. I don't have to just talk about it or do something about it.
Wow, that's incredible. Do you have I know with this process it's probably, just organically unfolding, but do you have like a date where it's going to be released yet or
Well, I've been releasing single by single because it seems like that's kind of the going trend.
Yeah,
And I like consuming songs that way too. One of my
me
favorite
too.
artists just released a huge album, and I'm like, I can't tell them all apart, you know, like I get to
Yeah.
know each one. So I like that process. But as I release each single, the ones I love, like I feel the perfectionist in me approves of, I'm like, yes, this is like my best work. I put those on all the streaming sites usually.
Cool.
And then the ones that are maybe a little more just part of my creative process and my experimentation, and I'm like, I want to change that, but it's kind of too late now. So
Yeah.
those everything's on my Bandcamp of the full album, and
Oh,
yeah, I'm just
that's
proud of it.
awesome.
It's sort of like just a piece of my evolution.
Yeah. Wow, thank you for sharing that. It's so beautiful. I have this picture painted in my head of the whole thing and can't wait
Yeah,
to check it out. So thank
yeah.
you.
I would love for it to be a video. One thing that I'm confused about with Ursula K. Le Guin is like no one's really made a movie about her sci-fi universe, and I
Mm.
feel like it's maybe a feminist issue or something because
Hmm.
she brings in like archaeology, like her dad was an archaeologist, so she brings in some of that indigenous feeling, some of the ancient wisdom,
Yeah.
and like matriarchy. Like and she talks about she was an anarchist, so you know she's always flirting with that balance between government and freedom, and yeah, I'm just like somebody like I need to spread the news. Like somebody needs to make a movie about her
Yeah.
sci-fi because it's really unique and I wanna say feminist. It's just female, you know. It's like that's
Yeah. And maybe you could do the soundtrack for it. I mean,
exactly. Or they could take my concept and
yeah, yeah.
make it, and I'll star in it. That's
Okay,
fine
fine,
if I
fine.
must.
You never know.
I'll be
You're a good
Anmara.
manifester, so, it's
Yeah,
like, here we go.
be there.
I wanted to ask you, I know earlier we were talking before we recorded about um chronic health things, and I wanted to just ask you like the role that maybe music has played in healing that or anything you wanted to share about your chronic health journey as well. And I
Mm.
know listeners would be interested in hearing that because it's nice to see how music and art and um connection with nature can also, be healing towards many different things.
Yeah, I mean, I was just reflecting on it today. It's part of why I wanted to chat about it. Just looking back on my life, I feel like I was kind of struck down in my 20s,
Mm,
like my late 20s, I would say. Um, my early 20s, I was just kind of like bouncing around. I wasn't totally self
yeah.
aware, you know, I was just experimenting and exploring, traveling. Um, And then I kind of settled down a little bit in Charlottesville, Virginia, and was trying to like put in some little roots. Like I had a girl band, and we were plant based. And then like I went in and out of being vegan.
Yeah.
And of course, like we're spiritual, we're compassionate. Like we want to not have to be where we are in the food web. And like some people can do it and feel fine, but um, I think that plus unresolved trauma and just like my way of dealing with life is sort of through a lot of stress. And that's something I'm like constantly unpacking, healing, solving.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to come like deeper into the present. As you know, it's a journey to Anmara. Yeah, Anmara means to me also a state of harmony that can most easily be
Mm,
achieved through music. Um, but yes, I digress. So, yeah, I kind of just was doing my thing. Maybe it was my Saturn's return or something because it was around that time that I just started getting extremely tired, like chronic fatigue kept coming back because I'd had mono, so I tasted
Yeah.
chronic fatigue then, and then it was just like these waves, and yeah, I haven't really like fully articulated this yet, so I don't even know.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's cool to talk about it and
Yeah, yeah.
process it. Like you were mentioning, like we've all been on this roller coaster of health, and like many people are kind of in the low trough, and I'm like back out the other side a bit. Like I feel like
Yeah.
I've gotten really far in my healing journey, and looking back, I do wonder like how much the glyphosate everywhere, it's in the rain, and it's in, and then when we got to eat, there's all these seed oils, and
I
like I'm somebody who now if I eat just a little bit of sugar, I get like nihilistic. I'm just like, why do I even exist? This is horrible. And like I just hate sugar so much because it makes me feel that way. But I know it doesn't do that to everybody. But it's this feeling like I really don't want the next generation to be struck down in their youth, like in their prime. It's
Yeah.
just so wrong. And that's why I do think like realizing, like, if I could give my life to one thing, it would be like helping people realize we're not separate from nature, and like
Mm.
what we do to nature does like karmically come back to haunt us. And um,
Yeah.
yeah, one big part of my healing was I found this at our farmers market. I found this agrarian farm, which, if you don't know what agrarian means, it's
Agrarian? Yeah, I
yeah,
don't know.
agrarian. Yeah, it's a weird word. So I've never tried to say it out loud. It's really hard to say. um, it's where it's not just sustainable. Like you can just like do this and the soil won't wash away. Like you can just
Yeah.
farm forever. It's sustainable. Agrarian is like healing the land and taking the carbon dioxide out of the air, putting it in
Mm.
the soil. And there is a way of raising the animals and growing the food that helps to grow these huge roots underground. And I do
Wow.
think a big part of that could potentially be going back to like wilder grasslands and buffalo, because their hooves, I've heard, are made to like cut the grass in such a way that the grass doesn't die, and then the roots get stimulated to get huge. And
Yeah.
it's this whole little realm of farming that's kind of growing with popularity. But
Wow.
eating those foods, like this particular farmer at Verdant Acres, the main farmer, well, they both farm a ton, but she's my friend. So when I think of the farm, I think of her.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
she only feeds the chickens like non-soy, non-GMO, no pesticide. Like it's just like so pure. And then I would just like get her big veggie meat CSA and like make all these ancestral foods, and like my energy would
Yeah.
surge and my skin would glow. And I was just like, oh my God, like when we take care of the land takes care of us, and like
Yeah.
we are the land. And
Yes.
yeah, so
We've been we have a CSA box too, and it's just for those who are listening that don't know, it's community supported agriculture, and it's just incredible to eat seasonally, to eat locally, to support local. The food is so delicious. I mean, it's just and if you don't know what to do with it, like right now we're getting some veggies, we're like, "Huh, just roast it." I feel like that's the
yeah,
cure. It's like, just roast it and it'll be great.
yeah, yeah. And I'm just
Um,
amazed that like just salt, like if
yeah,
you start with the good ingredients, you don't
right.
need to add much. Like a bunch of
No.
my recipes now are just like two ingredients, or maybe
Yeah,
if I get inspired, I add a little bit more. But like
yeah.
it's
Just tasting the actual whatever it is,
yeah,
is
the
yeah.
minerals and the sunlight.
It's so great. Wow. So has that been healing for like chronic issues that you've had or
Definitely. Yeah, that's
yeah.
like kind of my cornerstone. Like I wake up every day and just make sure I have whole food, nothing processed.
Yeah.
Like I process everything myself.
Yeah, that's so
And
nice.
then I can move on with my day and have that
Yeah.
energy to create, or just even get out of bed.
Yeah.
And then you really appreciate it because you're like, wow, I know what it's like to not have energy. And now if something kind of comes in the way of me and my energy, I'm like, like, oh,
You
do you
can
want this
sense it.
alcohol, or do you want to stay up
Yeah.
late, or do you want this little trashy treat? And I'm like, you're gonna really have to sell me on this.
Yeah, like sometimes yes, actually, but it's definitely it's good to be in tune with the subtle, I think, and to have that sensitivity towards it. Knowing yourself.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
so sensitive. And I do feel like this whole journey for me, it forced me to do, less of putting myself out there and more of this making my little cozy creative cove is what I call it,
Yeah.
my cozy cove. And yeah, it's definitely was a dream of mine to have my little home studio and
Yeah.
just like feel like, oh, when inspiration strikes, I can like turn on my little fairy lights and just like go into that little land. I wouldn't
Yeah.
say I'm one of those hyper focused people. For me, it's more these, I don't know, the word diamond comes to mind where it's like,
Mm.
it's this focused laser sparkling thing. And then like, oh, it's over and it's like, okay, I'm going to come at it tomorrow fresh. Like, I don't need to grind and grind. And one thing that is important to me is like ear health because I do have a little bit of ringing in my ears and I don't know if it's from health issues or damage. I think I got a little bit of damage over the years just from all the playing live and the feedback.
Yeah,
And
totally.
my banjo would just always like give so much feedback. I'm like, oh my god, I wish I had had a mentor back then because I just made all the mistakes. And my
Yeah, of
hearing
course.
is like above average. I think that's part of why it got damaged because like it's just like really high frequencies in one of my ears got damaged, and now there's just like a little buzzing in there. Anyways,
Gosh.
yeah, what people don't realize is like the amount of time you use your ears. Like, say you're listening to something loud, like a lawnmower or something, and
Mhm.
like a little bit of that is fine. And then as time goes on, it becomes more dangerous because it's not the decibel level; it's decibel time. I don't know what the chart is.
Ooh,
It's time as well as intensity.
I
So
didn't
like a
realize
short
that.
burst of a loud sound might hurt you just as much as like 8 hours of a medium sound. You know.
Wow.
So I just take great care, and I think people don't. Yeah, again, it's like I want to spare other people these things
Yeah.
that I've had to learn the hard way.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Huh. That's really great to know. Do you
Yeah.
have any things you do to help the ringing in your ears? Are there like techniques you use, or do you just kind of deal with it?
Fortunately, it's really subtle and like
Yeah.
hasn't gotten to that point. It does seem to spike when I play out, like at a loud show. So I'm working on. I told the label I want to before I do much more performing. I want to really troubleshoot that,
Yeah.
but it does seem to go down. So I do think there's like you know, there's this recovery. You can recover. It's just
Yeah.
if you knock the little hairs down over and over and over and over, they just don't come back up eventually.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I try. I think I'm just like trying to limit the live shows. Maybe do shorter shows with like focus my efforts. But yeah, as I was saying, like all of these things kind of brought me more into this like Enya realm where like I'm in my castle, I'm creating these ethereal sounds, and
Yes.
I'm in control of how much volume comes at me and yeah, how long I listen. And yeah, it's just kind of been this like journey of like self empowering
Yeah.
myself to I want to say now I can call the shots. It's like I don't
Yeah.
have to go to that studio. I don't have to work with that person. I don't have to email that person
Right.
a million times, and I don't have to go play that crappy gig that doesn't pay very well for 3 hours. Like I've
Yeah.
created this little cocoon around myself for better or for worse because now but I've always been very sensitive, and I
Yeah.
it's been a journey of like realizing that that's a strength.
It is.
And
Yeah.
at one point, I was feeling, I don't know what, I was just thinking about this recently. Like, I felt like I was on a journey of like increasing sensitivity. And I was starting to like hear like almost like psychic melodies. Like, if I was improvising with somebody, it would like be like, oh, I can hear the next sound I should sing. And I guess that's just like a skill that I haven't gone anywhere with since then because like I get really into songwriting and like I'm really into singing technique right now and like how that feels. But
Mm.
I do crave always for there to be more of a spiritual element to it because like
Mhm.
singing technique feels kind of like yoga and breathing techniques combined and it can be really relaxing, but it's not spiritual. So I'm not like I get like
Mm.
I'll be doing the the what is it, the routines, but I'll also be
Yeah,
like
yeah.
scrolling or like checking my email or something. I'm like, this is not gonna make me a better singer.
Oh.
So I'm feeling I'm craving like turning it into almost like a yogic
Yeah.
practice with my voice.
Yeah, I've talked about that with a friend before as discipline versus devotion almost, because technique can feel like discipline, but then finding the devotion or the ritual within it to kind of blend both of those together. So, um, wow, that's really cool to think about just like the different practices that you're doing, but you can multitask while you're doing them, and then it's like, should I be doing that or is this, the creative act coming through? I think it can be both, you
Yeah,
know.
the urge to multitask and just infinitely distract ourselves is very high.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you have to
yeah.
self reflect a little bit, make a decision. Like, okay,
Exactly. Well, so in each episode, I ask the guest these three questions, and I'm going to do them out of order just because we are talking about sound. So I'm going to do that one first. And that is, what sound do you love?
hmm. Well, what comes to mind is something that maybe a lot of people don't find beautiful, but
Mm.
I love the sound of like a big mass of cicadas in the summer and there's like you step into this wall of noise and like to me it feels like saging or something, like it's like breaking up stuff in my aura or whatever it's doing, like it feels cleansing because it's like white noise times 1,000. It's just like blasting at you and I'm like, you guys are so hardcore, like up there making this really intense music, like rock on my little dudes.
Yes, and like that's their song, right? Like, don't they come up and they sing it and then they die?
Oh, is that what
So
they're
it's like
doing?
this is their moment, you
Oh my
know?
god.
So it's
I
such
didn't
a
know that.
blessing. I think that too, to hear cicadas, it's like they're blessing us with this moment that we're sharing with them. So yeah.
Whoa.
Wow. I can't
Amazing.
wait till summer again so I can hear it and be like, yeah, it is like saging the energy all around.
Yeah. I kind of want to
Yeah.
sample the sound, but I haven't tried it yet and like I don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah.
How do I make this sound good in a recording? Let's
Well, there's cicadas right now under the earth just waiting for you to do that. So they'll be
yes.
there when you're ready.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so if you were a plant, what plant would you be and why?
Well, I've off I've often thought about getting a tattoo of an agave plant because I lived
Hmm.
out in Arizona and I just thought they were beautiful and I loved their life cycle because they grow for 7 years and at the end of the 7 years they send up a stalk and they make these beautiful blooms. And then there's an agave moth, I'm pretty sure, that only like lives and pollinates and drinks the agave blossom nectar.
Oh,
And they're
wow.
like they have like a little symbiotic relationship and I just thought that was so beautiful, like with the seven chakras and the kundalini and the
Mm,
just the magic of the number seven, the seven seas and things like that. So
yeah. Ooh,
I,
that is magical. I've never heard of the agave moth. Wow.
yeah, I think that's something no clue, but we should all look it up.
Yeah, it exists on Anmara, right? On the
Yeah,
universe of
at
that.
least if not a moth, it's a hummingbird, or maybe it's both. I don't
Oh,
know.
it transforms. I mean,
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
my gosh, that's
And we
beautiful.
have yucca plants outside of my door here in Virginia. These like
Mm,
little magical desert-looking things that are
yeah.
in the humus. And I you can eat the blossoms. They
Ooh,
taste kind of like a white blossom would taste, just very
yeah.
bland. But I realized one time I was eating one and there was like a cute little white moth inside of it, and I was like, oh no,
Oh.
like eating your home. So I don't eat their flowers anymore because I'm like, that's where the magical little white moths live.
Public service announcement,
Yeah.
please. Uh,
You
no
can
more
eat them,
eating.
but don't.
Oh, okay. So the last question is, what do you know for sure?
Oh. Well, what comes to mind again, I don't know if I know anything for sure, that's for sure. Um, but what comes to mind is one time I don't know what I was doing, but I got this like download. Maybe it was a voice in my head, maybe it was just a knowing. I can't really remember. It was years and years. It was like at least a decade ago. And it was like I came to show the power of presence. And
Mm,
I just think about that from time to time in my life. I'm like, yeah, like, the wisdom that you can put into music and the inspiration, or, my manifesting journey, or my healing from all this like chronic stress and illness, and, just
yeah.
everything. I think when you get really down to the bedrock of my existence, um, it is about that journey of becoming just like present, welcoming all those emotions, breathing your full breath for
Mm,
whatever's coming up, whatever you're experiencing. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I think that's my little, when you boil it all down, that's actually what I'm trying, or what I'm actually doing. When I
Yes.
succeed, I would chalk it up to that, like just admitting the truth to yourself, or following your intuition. Like I think it's all
Mm,
connected to that presence.
mm, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah. So, how can listeners connect with you? I know that you have a Patreon and all of that. Would you like to share like the different ways that they can explore all of the beautiful offerings that you have?
Well, Patreon is obviously my favorite because, like, every month I have this budget to just go follow my butterfly and go record if I feel like it, and
Yeah.
have, like, be able to buy some props for a music video if I need to. So that's my favorite. And then hopefully they get, you get little behind the scenes and little notes here
Yeah.
and there, a little, you get to hear things and see things first, if possible, and your name in the credits and everything. But if you don't want to be there, like totally supporting me, if you just dip your toe in first.
Okay.
Lately, I've been sending people to my YouTube channel because I love the music video medium as well, and
Yeah.
have kind of been going on a similar journey where I get to produce and edit all the footage. And
Mm.
yeah, so that's youtube.com/at Anmara Music, ANMARA Music. Oh yeah, and the Patreon is patreon.com/Annabeth Sings, because I used to go by Annabeth. I mean, I still go by Annabeth, but my music used to be Annabeth. So, but I figure it's like you're getting to know me more than just the
Yeah.
music. So
Yeah.
ANNABETHSINGS for that. But yeah, basically Facebook, Instagram. I really like posting on Instagram for some reason, and TikTok are all at Anmara Music. And I also love Bandcamp. So Bandcamp,
Cool.
Anmara.bandcamp.com. So that's where I'm posting.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I'll link it to the show notes. And all of that's on your website too. Like they can
Right,
get to that through there.
anmaramusic.com.
Beautiful. Awesome. Oh my gosh. Do you have any upcoming shows or you're kind of in the studio right now because it's winter or what's
Yeah, we're doing all the non-show stuff, but I don't know if I can spill the beans, but I might
okay.
be playing at the Apple Blossom Festival in
Mm,
DC. Depending on the weather,
yeah.
there might be a lot of people, so that could be cool. And
Cool.
yeah, hopefully I'm playing a Floyd Yoga Jam next year because they booked
Yeah.
me. They booked me every year I asked to play there so far. I
Oh
know
my
they've kind of
gosh.
shifted ownership, but it's, whether I play there or not, I hope that anyone listening will consider going because it's
What a
just
great festival.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a blast of positivity.
It
Everybody's so
is.
happy, and like if you want to know what it feels like to like listen to an amazing show, do ecstatic dance, do 3 different sessions of yoga, like meet somebody that's incredible and like you have like a bunch of things in common serendipitously. You know, it's like
Yeah.
you're in the flow, and
Yeah.
yeah, there's nothing like it.
Oh my gosh. What I loved about being there, and to the listeners, that's where our paths crossed as I went to one of her shows, is just the letting go of time too. Like it was nice to have a day where it's like, I want to go to all these things, but also just being like, I don't know what time it is. My phone doesn't work here, and I'm just gonna go with it. It's so healing, and incredible.
Yeah. Oh my god,
Yeah.
that's my favorite. Island
Mm.
time, full
Yeah.
state,
Yeah. So good. Well,
disconnected from the matrix.
yeah, but also so connected, like
Yes,
disconnected and connected at the
the
same
real.
time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the Gaia
Well,
matrix.
yes. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. It
Thank
was
you.
absolutely wonderful,
I know.
and I hope our paths cross soon.